everyone, welcome back to Mad About Cards and Crafts and another Brutus Monroe Design Team project. Today we are playing with the Fence Builder die set available now over in the Brutus Monroe store. This die set comes with 6 different pieces. There are several different styles of fence posts that create different looks to the fence. There are 2 of them. The fence ends, so those larger pieces are all the same, and then of course the cross hatches on them are going to be the same style as well. I am going to use that one right there to build my fence for this snowman. I do have the watercolor panels for Christmas. There are 4 different designs, 2 of each design for a total of 8 pre-printed watercolor panels. And finally, I have the seasonal sentiments, which is packed full of wonderful Christmas, New Year's, and holiday sentiments for your card making. This is Glitter Glaze in Fallen Snow. We're going to mix some aqua pigments again. I'm working on my color theory here. I started with a red. I'm adding a little bit of green, and I'm going to mix that up. Add a little more green to this, and finally I'll come in with a little bit of that orange yellow. I'm trying to get a brown tone. This still has a little bit of a red tint to it, and I'm going to come back in and I'll end up fixing that. So I'm just laying that aqua pigment directly over my panel. I have blue, I'm adding that yellow. Here I'm adding some red. I'm trying to achieve a black. I end up with more of a purple tone, so I do need to add a little bit more yellow. I don't quite get the black. You'll see here, I really get a very deep brown, but I didn't quite get the black with this. But I like the way that it ended up turning out. So I started by adding some water to my hat, and then I started dipping my brush into that aqua pigment. So you can see it does have kind of a, if there is such a thing as a light black tone, and I'm going to add a little bit of that to deepen up the broomstick, which I think worked out really well. I'm going to make a mixture of the red and the yellow orange to get that carrot color for the snowman's nose. I missed some spots on the snowman's brim. I try not to add the color next to each other, so I try to let areas dry in between before I come in with a different color tone. So you saw that I added that little bit of the mixture, the blackish mixture, to the broom. And now after it has dried a little bit, I'm adding that yellow. So I'm adding the yellow to the broomstick as well as to the rope that would tie the broom together. For the eyes, I'm adding the tinsel blue on its own, and then I'm going to mix in a little bit of the red, and that's going to give me a beautiful purple tone, and I'm going to use that purple tone to start coloring in the scarf. I have a lot of aqua pigment on my brush, so I did tap it off into different areas that I wanted to add the purple rather than trying to paint in some of those smaller areas, because there would be a possibility, with me at least, that I would mix it into an area or brush it into an area that I didn't want it. So it was easier for me just to tap it off in the areas that I knew I wanted that purple tone, and then come back in and spread it out. I'm going to mix a beautiful teal color right here. So I'm going to add some green, and then I'll add a touch of the blue. And I really love the color tone that I got here. So I'm going to add that to the ribbon on his hat. And then I'm also going to add it to the rest of the scarf. I feel like the snowman is just a little bit flat. I don't like leaving it just that plain white color. So I am going to add some red. I'm going to add obviously it to the tongue, but I'm going to add it to the cheeks as well to give the cheeks a little bit of rosiness. I will blend it out once I put the red on the cheeks. I will come back in with just water on my brush, and that will lighten up that tone and give it more of a rosy feel as opposed to just a blot of red. So I'm almost finished here. I do, when I'm finished coloring up this panel, I do set it aside to dry for a little bit, probably for about 20 minutes. And that's because I am going to run it through my brother's Scan and Cut, and I am going to cut it out. If I ran it through my brother's Scan and Cut without giving it some time to dry, there's a possibility that it could smear onto my scanner. And so I just had a little bit of patience and waited for it to completely dry. Again, I did mention that I thought that the snowman was running a little bit flat. So to combat that, I've taken the Tinsel blue and I'm very lightly going to add it all around the edge of the snowman. So both the left side and the right side. I'm not really working on shadows. I just want to get that little bit of blue color on there because I think that it really starts making that snowman pop a little bit. And you'll notice that I do go over some of the areas a little bit more. So I'm dipping the brush into the blue ink. I'm adding that little bit of blue, and then I dip my brush, clean it off, and dip it into the water. And then when I'm working it, I'm trying to just make sure that I'm not getting any harsh lines with that water. So I go over it a couple of times. I'll go under the nose and around that bottom side of the face, and I get a little bit too much pigment, so I wash my brush and then I push it in towards the line as opposed to drawing it out. And what that was doing was picking up some of that color. For the fence, I did cut out my pieces and I did run it through my die cutting machine with a wood grain embossing folder to give it a little bit more texture. I used a very light stone gray cardstock. I didn't want to go with white because my snowman was going to be white, so I thought that adding that touch of gray would make the fence post pop a little bit more, as well as my snowman. I have some weathered wood distress ink, and I'm changing the pressure that I use on different posts because the posts are not going to be identical. There are going to be some that are darker and lighter than others, and so I wanted to get that color variation when adding that weathered wood. And I'm also adding some hickory smoke around the edges to try to make those posts pop a little bit more. Here I have a top folding 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base. I'm going to do some ink blending on the background. I have actually, it's not a card base. It's actually just a card panel. And it's not 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. It's 4 by 5 1/4. So I apologize there. I have prize ribbon, evergreen bough, and peacock feathers. And I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending for a sky in the background. I really loved this color combination. I liked that light blue, or that blue at the bottom where I'm leaving that snowbank, because I felt like there would be a little bit of a reflection from the snow, maybe from the street lamps outside. Once I finish with that, I'm going to use my distress sprayer and spray it pretty heavily with some water, trying to get some large splatters and some softer splatters, and then I pick it up using my microfiber cloth. No card would be complete without a little bit of splattering, so I am adding some white gouache to give that snow feel to the background. And once I finish with that, I am going to start building my fence. I did let this dry for a few minutes just to make sure that I didn't get any smearing, and then I used my heat tool, I used my heat tool to help it along. I have a T-square ruler here, and I'm going to start laying down some of my fence posts. I'm going to use 3 of these wider posts. I'll add 1 to the left side, and I'm going to add 1 to the right side, and then I'll add another one in the middle, and then I'm going to add the smaller of the fence pieces in between. And then I'm going to move on and leave the rest of the fence posts, so there's those longer pieces that need to go across the fence. I'm going to add those later on after I've created my snowbank. So there's my snowman all cut out. and we're going to stamp our sentiment. So the sentiment I chose to use says Holly Jolly, which I thought was perfect for the snowman. I'm using some Metropolis ink from Pink Fresh Studio. It's a beautiful gray. I thought that black would be just a little bit too harsh, and I thought the gray was perfect since I did use the gray with the fence post. Here I'm adding that fallen snow, and you noticed I am going up on the fence post. I'm taking some of it off because I don't want it really thick in those areas, but I did want to add it so that it appeared that there was some snow behind the posts. Here I'm adding my two end pieces, and I do trim those off. I'm adding some foam tape to the back of my panel, and here is where I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding card base. Again, I used that light stone gray that was going to match my fence. I'm going to glue my snowman down. And I really like the way that this card came together. So that is going to be my finished card for today. I do want to thank you so much for watching. I'm going to add a little bit of highlight with my gel pen. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would absolutely love for you to subscribe and ring the bell so you're notified whenever I do upload a video. I do upload Brutus Monroe videos every Thursday. I hope to see you back here, and until next time, have a fabulous day.